Chapter 16, The Herbalist. There were two kinds of cultivators. The first kind preferred the silence of closed doors, being detached from the world to focus on greater truths and inner strings that governed one's core. Some said these people cultivated for hundreds of years without even bothering to take in the fresh morning air, or eat, or sleep, or do anything mortal at all, as if they were afraid it would make them more human. These people were Morans. The other kind, more sensible and much less radical, thrived in being out in the world. Because that's how you get to feel the passing of time and the treasures the heavens blessed upon these lands. Thus Emperor Xia wrote, "To live is to feel the wind on your skin." Wind. A trickle of air wishing through the branches and down the mountains, an impish brat poking fun at the leaves or bushes with no particular reason. Zhu Lili prided herself on belonging to this second group. Her father didn't like it. He'd often argued that the world could be a cruel place for an 18-year-old girl, that demonic bastards and other monstrosities were lurking behind the shadows, waiting to prey upon young cultivators. True as these things might be, Zhu Lili had never let these so-called harsh truths prevent her from venturing out into the wilds. An apothecary, or an herbalist, if you will, couldn't just stay in a dusty room and hope to learn all the knowledge from some old books. No. Her master back in Luminous Sun School had told her once that an herbalist had to dirty her hands to become a true master of the craft. The same was true for being an apothecary. Zhu Lili had taken those words to heart and thus had embarked upon a journey of her own before attempting to secure a spot at the Eastern Dawn Academy. That was 2 years ago, and now she was an experienced adventurer, a curious explorer, and a master apothecary in the making. Though she might have ventured a bit deeper than she'd had planned this time. She placed her big pack on the ground with a loud thump as she squinted up at the looming trees that established a clear line that marked the border of what seemed like a great forest, then flinched when an angry squeak scolded her from within the pack. A furry tail shook impatiently for a split second before going still, a clear message that little Yao wished to sleep a little more. Sighing tiredly, Zhu Lili regarded the forest for a second. The sun couldn't penetrate the thick canopy of trees, but that wasn't anything new. Most forests out here had some strange grudge against the sun. For away in the distance, a single mountain towered high into the skies, its peak busy with rolling clouds. This should be the place. And that should be the Anguished Mountain. The place where Emperor Xia had banished Sage Grin. But erring on the side of caution, she searched for the map in her pack, this time a little more careful not to wake up the angry little monster sleeping inside. It didn't take long for her to find it, as the visit to Lanzhou had left her all broken bare. And what did she get in return for selling all those medicinal herbs? Just a single body tempering pill. For 30 imperial gold. Granted, it was a peak-quality pill that was tenfold more effective than the low-quality ones, but still, they should be flogged if not hanged for charging this price. It was extortion. In the Middle Lands, such a pill would be sold for 8 imperial gold, or 9 at most if there was a great occasion for alchemists like the yearly alchemists gathering. I don't know how these people do it. The more I wander away from the Middle Lands, the more inflated these prices get. I understand that they don't have as many alchemists here, but still, the Empire should do something. Unfortunately, she had long since given up on sending letters of complaint to the Imperial Palace. The policy of "we'll return to you in at most 50 years" wasn't one for people like her who still had some semblance of time in their early phases of life, unlike her father's generation. She flattened the map wide on the ground, searching herself with a finger round hundreds of cities and forests scattered across the eastern continent. Her heart skipped a beat when her finger trailed a long line from Hensei, which was situated a day away from Imperial City, all the way down to Lanzhou, making her understand once again how far she was away from home. 6 months. It'd take at least 6 months for me to get back home without a spiritual beast ride. I'm nearly at the end of the world. A single dot piqued her interest when she focused on the name Jianjin, a small city that was some 5 li away from the Darkloom Forest. As planned, she would use this city as her base as she searched the Darkloom Forest for different medicinal herbs. The spiritual energy here wasn't half as thick as it was back in Lanzhou, for the Sky River didn't have any branches out here in the Far East, but the plants had a way about them that often managed to surprise her. They were strong and stubborn, growing in the most extreme and poor conditions all the same, and she was curious what sort of species she would come across in this remote forest. Good. There's no need to venture too deep. First, I'll find some medicinal herbs, then I'll pay a visit to Jianjin to refill my stocks. With a spirited shake of her head, she hauled the pack on her back and trudged into the line of trees. There was a spring in her step as she hopped round the trees, through the dense branches, into the dark confines of the forest. It was a good change, as the air was awfully hot directly under the sun. "Little Yarrow, you don't plan on sleeping through the day, do you?" she said, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand, the other hand poking slightly the pack. "I promise I'll get you something good when we are in the city, but first, we need to find those herbs." An irritated squeak answered, followed by little huffs and puffs before a short head appeared right beside her nose. The squirrel's eyes were almost narrowed as she regarded Zulily with apparent anger, then she sighed, or that's how it looked to Zulily, and jumped onto the ground. "There's really a thing as too much spirit, but can't say no to your father's gift, now, can you? At least she has a way with herbs." Now Zulily could, if she wanted, find those herbs herself. It would just take some extra effort and a little more dirt on her hands, but she could do it. Still, she was thankful for the gift. It was a tradition most herbalists and apothecaries shared, getting a spiritual beast, preferably one with a sharp nose and sharper fangs. Say you wanted to pluck a seed thorn. Those things grew right under dense rock formations, leaving only their seed-like leaves out in the open which slithered from between the slight cracks and crevices. And say you don't have a beast like Little Yarrow who could chew through those rocks as if they were rotten leaves. Then you would have to dig your way down the rock layers, and to do that you would have to use a pickaxe, which wasn't an ideal tool to carry around when you're out venturing deep into the wilds. A spatial ring would have solved these problems right away, only they cost about 1,000 imperial gold, and that was the cheapest kind. Father promised to gift me one if I managed to get into the academy. We'll see if he really means it. Anyhow, in that sense, Little Yarrow had a useful side to her, just that it often took more than a basic command for her to get the job done. Zulily had been dangling carrots and other spiritual delicacies she could find around the cities as rewards for her beast's respectable efforts, but not today. Today she was broke. Thankfully, Little Yarrow seemed to have understood that fact as she kept her nose down to the ground, eyes searching around the dense lines of foliage and shrubs that covered most of the place. Ever grateful for Little Yarrow's focus, Zulily trailed after her, taking in the fresh and chilly air. The ground was slick with dew, and the leaves were bent under heavy droplets of water which splashed down as she passed by them. Above, the thick canopy only allowed frail lines of sunlight to seep through them, illuminating parts of the forest where sun-eaters huddled together to feed on them. Their stalk was thin, ending up in leaves that had spread wide like the sun, all yellow with slight markings that looked like chalk lines on their surfaces. From the number of marks, one could gauge their age and cultivation base. 3 strips. So these are low-quality mortal-grade plants. As an 8-step body tempering stage expert, Zulily could easily crush them with a palm, but decided to keep her distance from these plants as they had the tendency to get overly competitive when an intruder stepped inside their sunlight domain. And here, where sunlight was a rare delicacy, they looked rather pitiful, so Zulily didn't want to crush them without a real reason. Their stem has a mildly acidic liquid that can be used in mending the bones, but it's not that effective, which is why nobody bothers to trade them. Zulily shook her head and was about to jump over a thorny bush when her skin prickled all of a sudden. Searching around her, she didn't see anything and only managed to understand the reason for it as an impatient squeak reminded her that she was, in fact, not alone in this forest. Beyond the bush, Little Yarrow was huffing under her brownish cheeks, one side puffed out with a stray nut she'd probably found somewhere on the way, waving a clawed hand at a tree that towered over the others with its thick and darkened bark. It looked charred and a touch away from crumbling, but the sight of it brought a little smile to Zulily's lips as she laid a hand over its surface. Inside the bark, she asked with a look over her shoulder to Little Yarrow and got a simple nod as the squirrel neared the towering tree. "Tell me where to stop." Zulily started lowering her hand, inch by inch, as she kept one eye on Little Yarrow. The squirrel only squeaked the spot when Zulily's hand was a breath away from the ground. "Troublesome. Could be a root remedy or a gnarled soul. We have to dig." She turned with a wide smile straining on her lips to Little Yarrow and bowed her head before pointing at the spot. "Are we ready to dig, Master Yarrow?" Little Yarrow's bead-like dark eyes seemed to shrink into dots as she moved a big step away from the bark. Her clawed hands, glistening sharply whenever they caught the sunlight, drummed on the ground, long and fluffy tail swinging left and right with a slow, almost lazy cadence. "I've told you we have nothing." Zulily was having a battle to not roll her eyes at the squirrel. Sense, she found, was a fickle thing for spiritual beasts. They often ignored reason in most foolish scenarios, such as chasing a rat or a nut, even if it rolled down into a volcano's mouth. But she knew little Yarrow was her only hope, so she hung on to that smile for her dear life. Please, I promise we'll get something good from Jianjin. I've heard they have spirit rice and spirit nuts. Yes, spirit nuts, can you believe that? Little Yarrow's eyes glinted with desire for a second before giving way to a suspicious look that drilled through Zululi's scalp. But she pressed on, not just with intent, but with her hands at the same time, locking them up as if in prayer. I'm telling the truth. Spirit nuts, waiting for you. But first, we have to dig through that bark. I'll pay for this one later. Her smile widened when little Yarrow dragged itself near the tree, raising her clawed hand painfully slow before swinging it round at the bark. It cracked open right away, splinters flying across the sides, plunging like little awls into the other trees. After the first claw, the others came crashing down, a flurry of attacks to which the darkened tree had no way of defending itself. Not a minute later little Yarrow was halfway into the bark, digging down through the soil, careful not to touch the yellowish stalk that swayed gently in the middle. It seemed sickly and rotten, or even chopped off, as it didn't have anything resembling a leaf, but Zululi was grinning as little Yarrow dug deep and deeper. Once the stalk revealed itself fully, little Yarrow inched away from it, letting Zululi take a good look at it. It came near her waist, covered in a gentle mist that seemed to be seeping out from the ground. There were bean-like bulges inside the stalk, as though the plant had eaten rocks and they got stuck in midway toward its roots. A three-beaded root remedy, Zulili muttered, one hand under her chin as her smile faltered. It certainly wasn't a bad plant, but wasn't a treasure either, as 3 beads indicated that the plant was a low-quality medicinal herb. Once mixed with a leaf from red cedar tree and a pinch of rock salt, it could prove some relief to patients who had mild indigestion or constipation. Well, it can be considered as a good start. Gathering her spirit, Zulili reached for the stalk, little Yarrow inching another step away as if she didn't want anything to do with the process. The gentle mist coiled around her fingers as Zulili managed a strong grip down near the rich remedy's root, knowing that she had to pluck it in one single motion to keep the spiritual mist from pouring out from the veins. Just then she felt a little, but insisting poke to her back. She tried to keep her anger in control, sighing tiredly as she waved little Yarrow's sharp claws away. I'm trying to pull this thing out, can you give me a second? Back on the root remedy, Zulili eased her head into the tree bark and reached for the stalk, grabbing it just under the third bin, which was near the ground. She breathed deeply as she gathered all her focus. A single motion. What? She snapped back to little Yarrow and winced after banging her head to the tree bark, a damn solid one from how her mind reeled with the impact. Once she blinked through the slight sting, she pointed a brisk finger into little Yarrow's face. But the squirrel wasn't even looking at her, instead its gaze was focused on the right side, somewhere between the dense bushes. A giant shadow fell on both of them as a monstrous beast slowly crushed those bushes under its claws, trudging lazily near the tree and staring down at them, curious, as though it saw some slightly oversized bugs. It didn't take long before its gaze skipped past them, instead focusing on the yellowish stalk, its red eyes glinting with interest. A saber fang, really? Zulili stepped back, busy counting the fangs protruding from the beast's tightly closed jaw. Other than that jaw, the rest of the creature's body had nearly blended with the gloom of the forest, dark fur smooth and spotless. When the saber-fang tried to reach with his jaw to the stalk, ignoring the pair of them, Zulili grew a little restless and a bit furious too, as being disregarded in this remote part of the continent by some saber-fang that thought itself too precious and mighty to even spare them a glance was too much for her. This thing is courting death. And it doesn't even look strong. Third step of body tempering, or fourth. But being ignorant is no great sin. Yes, no need to get angry at an innocent beast. Junior Saberfang, hello there. Zulili said, forcing a smile on her face. I think there's a misunderstanding here. We found that root remedy, so it's ours. I kindly request you to step back. The Saberfang turned its head slightly to glance at her, then snorted before taking a step forward and started chewing the darkened bark of the tree to reach for the root remedy. Zulili could almost hear the creature's stomach grumbling. Look, Zulili said, her right eye twitching, and poked the Saberfang with a finger. My father would have killed you right away, but I like to believe there is some sense in beasts like you. So, back off and leave me alone with my herb, or else you can't blame me for. It came at her with a growl, its body surprisingly nimble against its bulk, slashing across her chest with a front paw. 5 claws, Zululi saw, flashing ominously as they neared her. A simple move, but deftly and straight to the point. You can't truly reason with these beasts. With a sigh, Zulili stepped back and swatted the clawed paw away with a backhanded slap, drew closer, and jabbed at its underjaw, which cut the beast's roar right away as its mouth clamped shut with the impact. A pitiful whimper after Zulili lunged for the beast, wrapped a hand around that same leg, and pushed 2 fingers into the paw. The pressure point answered back with a soft crunch. Any more than the beast's front leg would be paralyzed for at least a whole day. So, we are good, then, right? She said as she smiled down at the beast who tried to struggle away from her hold. Back to your business, now, little friend. The same goes for me. Once she loosened her hold around the paw, the saber-fang bolted away like a cat under the rain, vanishing into the thick bushes in a matter of seconds. With it gone, Zulili turned to little Yara. You know what, Zulili said, shaking her head. Guess sometimes I expect too much from you guys. Chapter 17, Unknown Entity. Okay, this is just like a boss battle. Assess the enemy, figure out its weaknesses, and exploit them. A notification popped up in Kai's vision. New quest, exterminate the giant scavenger roach. Reward, 150 XP, rare item drop. Failure, death. He quickly compared his physical stats to the beast's. Kai Thorn. Level 5. XP, 150 of 500. Chi, 100 of 100. Strength, 31. Agility, 33. Endurance, 32. It outclasses me in raw stats, but I have more skills and Liu Wei as backup. Plus, it's weak to fire. I can work with this. Liu Wei. Kai called out, his voice steady despite the deadly threat. It's weak to fire. Use any fire-based skills you have. I don't have any fire skills, Master. Right, of course not. That would be too easy, Kai thought. The roach charged forward, its mandibles clicking ominously. Kai activated his wind step skill, darting to the side just as the creature's massive form barreled past. Aim for the joints in its legs. Kai shouted. We need to slow it down. Liu Wei nodded, pulling out a handful of throwing knives. He threw them at the creature's leg joints. 2 found their mark, but the creature's tough exoskeleton deflected most of the damage. This is just like that giant beetle boss in Forest of Doom, Kai thought. We need to find its weak points. The roach spun around with surprising speed, its antennae twitching as it faced Liu Wei. A glob of greenish liquid shot from its mouth, narrowly missing the young man. Watch out for its spit. Kai warned. It's acidic. Liu Wei nodded, ducking behind a tree. Master, what's the plan? Kai's mind raced, recalling countless gaming strategies. We need to kite it, he shouted, then quickly corrected himself. I mean, we need to keep it moving, tire it out. You aggro it, and I'll look for weak spots. Liu Wei looked confused but nodded. I'll keep it busy. He then darted out from behind the tree, waving his arms. Hey, you overgrown bug. Over here. The roach turned, its multifaceted eyes gleaming with hunger. It scuttled after Liu Wei, who led it in a zigzag pattern through the trees. Kai took advantage of the distraction, circling around behind the creature. Wait a second. My chi condensation skill. I wonder. Kai focused, drawing on his chi and channeling it through his chi condensation skill. He visualized flames, willing the energy to take that form. To his amazement, a small orb of condensed fire formed in his hand. Holy crap, it worked. This is just like crafting a spell in an RPG. Liu Wei. Kai called out. I'm going to try something. When I give the signal, hit it with everything you've got. We need to maximize our DPS. Understood, Master. Kai began to circle the roach, condensing more and more fire chi into the orb in his hand. The creature tracked his movements, its eyes gleaming with malice. Just a little closer. When he was directly in front of the roach, Kai shouted, now. He held the condensed fire orb straight at the roach face. At the same moment, Li Wei leaped from his perch, daggers in hand, aiming for the creature's back. The fire orb exploded on impact, engulfing the roach's head in flames. It thrashed wildly, nearly catching Li Wei in midair. But the young man managed to twist his body, landing on the roach's back and plunging his daggers deep into a gap in its armor. The roach bucked and writhed, trying to dislodge Li Wei. Kai saw his chance and charged in, activating his iron skin for protection. He aimed a powerful flame palm strike at the roach's underbelly, where the armor looked thinnest. The strike connected, and Kai felt the satisfying crunch of chitin giving way under his fiery palm. The roach let out another piercing screech, this time tinged with pain and desperation. "Liu Wei, get clear!" Kai shouted. His support didn't need to be told twice. Liu Wei vaulted off the roach's back, rolling as he hit the ground. Kai pressed his advantage, unleashing a flurry of flying palm strikes on the roach's wounded underside. Each hit caused the creature to shriek and flail, its movements becoming more erratic. This is it, Kai thought. Time for the finishing move. He gathered his remaining chi, condensing it into the most powerful fire orb he could manage. The effort made his head swim, but he pushed through the discomfort. Skill leveled up. Flame Palm, level 3. Your attack increases by 30% when activated. You have gained 75 XP. Perfect timing. Hey, ugly. Kai taunted, backing away from the roach. Over here. The creature turned towards him, mandibles clicking in fury. It reared up, preparing to bring its full weight down on Kai. Wait for it. Just as the roach lunged forward, Kai hurled his condensed fire orc straight into its gaping maw. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the roach's eyes bulged and its body began to swell. A muffled boom echoed from within its carapace and flames burst from every joint in its armor. The giant scavenger roach collapsed, twitching a few times before finally going still. A message popped up in Kai's vision. Quest completed, exterminate the giant scavenger roach. Reward 150 XP, rare item drop, roach carapace fragment. You have received a bonus reward for defeating your first beast. 150 XP. Level up. You are now level 6. Kai let out a long breath, the tension draining from his body. He turned to Li Wei, who was staring at the roach corpse with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Are you okay? Kai asked. Li Wei nodded slowly. That was incredible, Master. The way you controlled the fire, it was like nothing I've ever seen. Kai grinned, trying to hide how drained he felt. Just a little trick I've been working on. You did great too, by the way. Those knife throws were spot on. Li Wei beamed at the praise. Thank you, Master. But what do we do now? Kai glanced at the roach smoking corpse. Well, first things first. Let's see what we can salvage from this thing. In games, in stories I've heard, monster parts can be valuable. They approached the dead roach cautiously. Kai reached out and touched its carapace, surprised to find it warm to the touch. A small piece came away in his hand, glowing faintly with residual chi. This must be the roach carapace fragment, Kai thought. He slipped it into his inventory, making a mental note to examine it more closely later. Master, Li Wei said hesitantly, do you think there are more of these things out here? Kai frowned. It was a good question. Possibly. We should stay alert. But hey, look on the bright side. If there are more, that just means more experience for us, right? Li Wei gave him a puzzled look. Experience? Right, not a gamer term here, Kai reminded himself. More opportunities to test our skills and grow stronger, he clarified. Ah, I see, Li Wei nodded. You're right, Master. Every challenge is a chance to improve. As they continued their journey, Kai couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. The forest around them seemed more alive now, every rustle in the bushes a potential threat or opportunity. This is way more intense than any game I've played, he thought. But the principles are the same. Adapt, overcome, and level up. They walked in silence for a while, both lost in thought. Kai used the time to review his new stats and skills. Name, Kai Thorn. Level, 6. XP, 0, 1000. Chi, 150 or 150. Strength 41. Agility 43. Endurance 40. Intelligence 25. Wisdom 22. Skills: Chi condensation level 3. Basic cultivation technique level 3. Unarmed combat level 2. Deception level 3. Iron skin level 2. Swift wind step level 2. Flame palm strike level 3. Mental fortitude passive. Not bad for one fight, Kai mused. But I'll need to get a lot stronger if we are going to face whatever's guarding that treasure. Master, Li Wei's voice broke into his thoughts. Can I ask you something? Sure, go ahead. Li Wei hesitated for a moment before speaking. During the fight, you said some strange things. Like when you shouted aggro and kite. What does that mean? Kai winced internally. He'd been so caught up in the moment, he'd slipped into gamer lingo without realizing it. Ah, that, he said, trying to sound casual. Aggro is just a term I picked up from some mercenaries I met before. It means to attract attention, to make the enemy focus on you. Li Wei's eyes widened with interest. I see. That sounds useful. And what about when you said DPS when you were hitting it with those fire strikes? Crap, Kai thought. I really need to watch my language. That's short for deliver powerful strikes he invented on the spot. It's just a way to remind myself to hit hard and fast. Fascinating, Li Wei said. The way you think about combat is so structured. Is that how they train in your homeland? Kai tensed slightly at the question. It seems Li Wei was still curious about his background. Problem was, he still hadn't come up with a solid backstory for himself. Something like that, he said vaguely. From what I can remember, I'm used to analyzing battles a lot. Break them down into components, you know. Li Wei nodded eagerly. That makes sense. It clearly works well for you, Master. Do you think you could teach me more of these concepts? Kai considered for a moment. On one hand, explaining game mechanics to someone from a non-gaming world could be tricky. On the other hand, having Li Wei understand his strategies better could be a huge advantage. Sure, he said finally. I can try to teach you some basics. But remember, these are just ways of thinking about combat. The most important thing is to stay adaptable and trust your instincts. Of course, Master, Li Wei said, bowing slightly. Thank you. As they continued walking, Kai began explaining some basic gaming concepts to Li Wei, translating them into terms the young man could understand. He talked about tanking as deliberately drawing enemy attacks to protect allies, kiting as a way to damage enemies while staying out of their reach, and crowd control as techniques to limit an enemy's actions. Li Wei listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that forced Kai to really think about how these concepts applied to real combat. This is amazing, Master, Li Wei said after a while. It's like you have a whole system for understanding battles. No wonder you were able to defeat that roach so easily. Kai chuckled. Well, I wouldn't say easily. That thing was tough. And remember, all the strategy in the world doesn't matter if you can't execute it. Your skills were just as important in taking that thing down. Li Wei beamed at the praise. Thank you, Master. I'll keep practicing to improve my skills. As they walked, Kai noticed Li Wei practicing some of the movements he'd used during the fight, mimicking the way Kai had dodged and struck. He's a quick learner, Kai thought approvingly. That'll come in handy. The sun was high in the sky now. Kai checked his map, noting that they were getting close to the area marked on the treasure map. We should be nearing our destination, he told Li Wei. Stay alert. If there was one monster guarding the path, there might be more ahead. Li Wei nodded, his hand moving to the hilt of his dagger. Do you think we'll face more of those rich creatures, Master? Kai shook his head. I doubt it. In my experience, challenges tend to vary. We should be prepared for anything. As if on cue, a rustle in the bushes ahead caught their attention. Both Kai and Li Wei dropped into defensive stances, ready for another fight. But instead of a monster, a small, furry creature scampered out onto the path. It looked like a cross between a rabbit and a squirrel, with large, curious eyes and a fluffy tail. Oh, Li Wei said, relaxing slightly. It's just a forest critter. Kai, however, kept his guard up. In games, cute creatures are often more dangerous than they appear, he thought. He quickly checked his map function, expecting to see a marker for the creature. His blood ran cold when he saw nothing. The map showed the surrounding area, but there was no indication of the being right in front of them. What the hell? Kai thought, sweat beading on his forehead. Is my map function broken? Or is this thing so powerful it doesn't even register? Suddenly, a system notification flashed in Kai's vision. Unknown entity. Level. Unable to identify. Entity's level exceeds your perception ability by a significant margin. Holy crap, Kai thought. The map function isn't broken, this thing is just too OP. It could probably sneeze and accidentally wipe us out. The creature tilted its head. Then, to Kai's surprise, it spoke. Greetings, travelers, it said in a high-pitched voice. What brings you to this part of the forest? Li Wei's jaw dropped. It talks. A talking animal NPC. Maybe it's friendly, let's see where this goes. Kai bowed deeply, nudging Li Wei to do the same. We are on a quest, Kai said carefully. Looking for a treasure that's supposed to be in this area. Do you know anything about that? The creature's whiskers twitched. Treasure, you say? There are many valuable things in this forest. But not all treasures are what they seem. Cryptic NPC dialogue. Check, Kai thought wryly. Can you give us any more specific information? He bowed again. The creature scratched its ear thoughtfully. I might be able to afford a price. Do you have any spirit fruits on you? They are quite tasty, you know. Kai glanced at Li Wei, who shook his head. Sorry, we don't have any spirit fruits, Kai said. The creature sighed dramatically. Oh well. In that case, I can only offer you this advice, beware the guardian of the hollow tree. Its bark is worse than its bite, but its bite is still pretty bad. With that cryptic warning, the creature scampered back into the bushes, leaving Kai and Li Wei staring after it in confusion. Master, Li Wei said slowly, what just happened? Kai exhaled slowly, finally relaxing. We just had an encounter with a being far beyond our current level. We are lucky it was feeling benevolent. Li Wei nodded, still looking bewildered. A guardian in a hollow tree, what do you think it means? I'm not sure, Kai admitted. But if we are unlucky, we'll find out soon enough. Come on, let's keep moving. As they resumed their journey, Kai's mind raced with possibilities. A guardian in a hollow tree, could it be some kind of plant monster? Or maybe the tree itself is alive. I'd rather not face a demonic tree. He glanced at his wrist, where only one prom was red. Still no change. I guess killing monsters doesn't count towards giving me respawn lives. A thought occurred to him, making him frown. It would probably be good to find a few bandits and deal with them. Just to be prepared for whatever is at that treasure spot. The idea made him uncomfortable, but he pushed the feeling aside. This is a Xianxia world. It's kill or be killed. I need every advantage I can get. Chapter 18, A Tortoise. Only when they were far enough from that unfathomable being did Kai's mind wander to the system. 1000 XP to break into stage 7, the XP needed to level up is increasing faster than I expected, Kai mused. Soon, I'll need to take down multiple high-level beasts just to make a dent. And one day, killing might not even give me meaningful XP at all. He shook his head, pushing the worrying thoughts aside. No point dwelling on that now. Who knows if I'll even make it that far? Li Wei's voice brought him away from his thoughts. Master, do you think we are getting close to the treasure? Kai was about to respond when something on his map caught his eye. 3 red dots surrounded a single green dot not too far from their position. Red usually means hostile, Kai thought. But green, that's new. Could it be a friendly NPC? Or maybe a quest giver? Without warning, Kai grabbed Li Wei's arm, cutting him off mid-sentence. Quiet, he whispered. Follow me. Stay low. Li Wei's eyes widened, but he nodded, falling into a crouch as they moved through the underbrush. As they drew closer, Kai could make out voices. They crept to the edge of a small clearing, peering through the foliage. 3 figures stood in the clearing, 2 men and a woman. At first glance, they appeared to be cultivators, but something about them seemed off. Their clothes were a mishmash of styles, lacking the uniform appearance of sect members. Road cultivators, Kai realized. Like me, but probably not Isekai. The trio surrounded what looked like a shell the size of a dinner plate, either a turtle or a tortoise. Kai couldn't tell the difference. They seemed to be trying to lift it, but no matter what they did, the small thing just wouldn't budge. Damn it, Chen Yang, one of the men growled, wiping sweat from his brow. You said this would be easy money. The woman, Chen Yan, apparently scowled. How was I supposed to know the stupid thing would be so heavy? It's just a baby. Some red beast expert you are, the other man grumbled. Can't even tell how strong a tortoise is. Oh, like you're any help, Huang Lei. Chen Yan snapped. All that muscle and you can't even budge it. The first man sighed. Both of you, shut up. We need to figure this out before someone comes along and steals our prize. Kai leaned in closer, straining to hear their conversation. Liu Wei shot him a confused look, but Kai held up a hand, motioning for him to stay quiet. Look, Guo, Huang Lei said, addressing the first man. Maybe we should just give up. This thing clearly doesn't want to move. Guo shook his head. No way. Do you know how much a spirit shell tortoise is worth? We could live like kings for 100 years off this haul. Chen Yan nodded. He's right. We can't give up now. Maybe if we all live together. We already tried that, Huang Lei pointed out. Well, what's your bright idea then? Chen Yan challenged. Huang Lei scratched his head. I don't know, maybe we could dig it out. Guo rolled his eyes. Great plan. Let's spend hours digging while any cultivator in the area senses the commotion and comes to investigate. At least I'm trying to come up with ideas. Huang Lei protested. Yeah, terrible ones, Chen Yan muttered. Oh, like you're one to talk. Huang Lei shot back. This whole mess is your fault. Chen Yang's eyes flashed dangerously. What did you say? You heard me. Huang Lei growled. If you hadn't insisted on chasing this sure thing, we could be back at the tavern by now, drinking our troubles away. Oh, so sorry for trying to improve our lot in life. Chen Yan said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Next time, I'll be sure to run all my ideas by the great and powerful Huang Lei first. Enough. Guo shouted, stepping between them. This bickering isn't helping anyone. We need to focus on the task at hand. Chen Yan took a deep breath, visibly calming herself. You're right. I'm sorry, Huang Lei. I shouldn't have snapped at you. Huang Lei's shoulders slumped. No, I'm sorry. This isn't your fault. We all agreed to come out here. Guo nodded approvingly at the 2 childhood friends. That's better. Now, let's think this through logically. What do we know about spirit shell tortoises? Chen Yan's brow furrowed in concentration. Well, they are incredibly rare. Their shells are prized for their defensive properties. They say even Foundation establishment cultivators have trouble breaking them. Which explains why we can't lift the damn thing, Huang Lei muttered. Right, Guo said. What else? They are intelligent, Chen Yan continued. Some say they can understand human speech, even from a young age. Huang Lei's eyes widened. Wait, are you saying we should try talking to it? Chen Yan shrugged. It's worth a shot, isn't it? We've tried everything else. Guo nodded slowly. All right. Chen Yan, you're the pretty one, you give it a try. Chen Yan took a deep breath, then approached the shell. She knelt down, bringing her face close to its surface. Hello there, little one, she said softly. We don't mean you any harm. We are just trying to help you. It's dangerous out here in the forest. Why don't you come with us? We can keep you safe. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, ever so slightly, the shell shifted. It's working. Huang Lei whispered excitedly. Chen Yan shot him a glare, then turned back to the tortoise. That's right, little one. You can trust us. We'll take good care of you. The shell lifted a fraction higher, revealing the edge of a scaly leg. Guo grinned. Keep going, Chen Yan. You've almost got it. Chen Yan reached out a hand, her fingers inches from the tortoise's shell. Come on, little one. Just a bit more. Suddenly, the shell slammed back down, nearly crushing Chen Yan's fingers. She jerked back with a yelp. What happened? Huang Lei asked. Chen Yan shook her head, looking bewildered. I don't know. It was working, and then... Guo's eyes narrowed. It must have sensed your true intentions. These creatures are more perceptive than we gave them credit for. Huang Lei kicked at the ground in frustration. So, what now? We can't lift it, we can't trick it, are we just supposed to give up? Guo's face hardened. No. We are not leaving empty-handed. If we can't take it alive, we'll have to. He trailed off, but the implication was clear. Chen Yang and Huang Lei exchanged uneasy glances. Are you sure about this, Guo? Chen Yang asked quietly. Killing such a rare creature, but feels wrong. Guo's jaw clenched. We don't have a choice. You know how things are for rogue cultivators like us. We need every advantage we can get. Huang Lei nodded reluctantly. He's right, Chen Yan. It's not pretty, but it's survival. Chen Yan sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I suppose you're right. How should we do it? Isn't its defense basically impenetrable? As the trio discussed their grim plans, Kai's mind raced. He glanced at Li Wei, who looked thoroughly confused and more than a little worried. Time to make a decision, Kai thought. These rogue cultivators are clearly desperate. If I reveal myself, they'll probably attack on sight. But I can't let them kill that tortoise, it could be a valuable ally or make us rich. He narrowed his eyes, focusing on the system's ability to analyze opponents. Information flooded his mind as he analyzed the three cultivators. Name, Chen Yan. Level, Qi Refining Stage 6. Strength, 38. Agility, 44. Endurance, 41. Name, Guo. Level, Qi Refining Stage 6. Strength, 42. Agility, 42. Endurance, 42. Name, Huang Lei. Level, Qi Refining Stage 6. Strength, 45. Agility, 35. Endurance, 45. All Qi Refining Stage 6, but with different stat distributions, Kai noted. Chen Yan's built for speed, Guo more balanced, and Huang Lei's the tank of the group. He studied their attire, noting Chen Yan's light, flexible clothing, Guo's robes with various pouches, likely for tools or talismans, and Huang Lei's heavier, protective gear. Their equipment matches their stats. This could be tricky if it comes to a fight. He turned his attention to the tortoise, his eyes widened at the information that appeared. Spirit Shell Tortoise, Infant. Level, Qi Refining Stage 9. Strength, 77. Agility, 10. Endurance, 99. Special ability, Impenetrable Shell. Note, extremely rare beast with immense potential for growth. Holy crap, Kai thought. No wonder they want it so badly. But why isn't it defending itself? Is it because it's too slow? He pondered the situation, weighing his options. If I helped the tortoise, I could potentially gain a powerful ally. Plus, taking out these rogue cultivators would fill up my respawn slots. It's risky, but the potential rewards are too good to pass up. Kai didn't feel particularly guilty about planning a sneak attack. The cultivators showed up as red dots on his map, which usually indicated hostile intent. The life of a rogue cultivator is brutal, he reasoned. They'd probably attack me on sight and rob my corpse if they knew I was here. New quest, rescue the Spirit Shell Tortoise. Objective, prevent the rogue cultivators from capturing the rare spirit beast. Reward, 600 XP, increased reputation with spirit beasts. Failure, decreased reputation with the inhabitants of the Whispering Woods, potential loss of unique ally. Except... Why men? Kai blinked in surprise. Well, that's convenient timing. At least the system agrees with my decision. Without hesitation, he mentally selected Y to accept the quest. The blue box disappeared, replaced by a small quest tracker in the corner of his vision. This confirms it, Kai mused. Saving the tortoise is definitely the right move. And that mystery reward looks promising. He then began considering his options for a sneak attack. I could try creating a bow with chi condensation, but I haven't practiced enough to be sure of a one-shot kill at this distance. And I need to take at least one of them out immediately to have a chance. After a moment's consideration, Kai settled on a plan. Stealth assassin approach it is. Time to channel my inner rogue. Kai turned to Li Wei, speaking in a whisper. I'm going to engage them. When I give the signal, I want you to engage from the trees using your throwing knives. Aim to break their coordination. Got it? Liu Wei nodded hesitantly. Understood, master. Kai turned his focus on his chi, condensing it into the shape of two sharp daggers. Then, with a deep breath, he activated his swift wind step technique. In the clearing, the trio was still discussing how to kill the tortoise. Maybe if we all attack at the same time at a targeted. Guo was saying when a blur of movement caught Chen Yang's eye. Watch out, she cried, but it was too late. Kai materialized behind Guo, who seemed to be the leader of the group. Without hesitation, he plunged both daggers into the man's back, aiming for his heart. Guo let out a strangled gurgle, blood bubbling from his mouth as he collapsed. Cultivator Guo eliminated. Plus 100 XP. Kai stood over Guo's body, daggers dripping with blood. He kept his expression neutral despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. I'm the one who's going to end your little spirit beast hunting expedition. As he faced the remaining two cultivators, a part of Kai's mind was analyzing the XP reward. Only 100 XP for killing a stage 6 chi refining cultivator. I expected a little more, considering I got 300 XP for killing that stage 7 bandit leader. Right, I was 3 stages below that stage 7 when I killed him. Now I'm at the same stage as the stage 6 cultivator. It seems the system balances the XP based on my level relative to my enemies. A grim realization settled in. At this rate, I'd need to kill 10 enemies at my level to advance to stage 7. That's a lot of fighting ahead. You bastard! Chen Yang screamed, her hands already moving to form a martial arts stance. Huan Lei dropped into a fighting stance, his fists glowing with earthen energy. Who the hell are you? He growled. I'm just someone who doesn't appreciate bullies picking on rare spirit beasts, Kai replied coolly, his chi form daggers at the ready. Now, are we going to do this the easy way or the hard way? 2 stage 6 cultivators. If I can take them both out, that's another 200 XP. But even with the reward from the quest, it's still not enough to level up. Chapter 19, Fighting a Pseudo Chi Refining Stage 8. Chen Yen's lips curled into a sneer. Oh, so you're one of those bleeding hearts who can't bear to see a poor little animal get hurt. Trust me, kid, in this world, it's kill or be killed. If only you knew, I've probably killed more digital creatures than you've had hot meals, Kai thought, like that counted for something. I'm well aware of how the world works, Kai said. But that tortoise is more valuable alive than dead. You're just too short-sighted to see it. If we can't have it, then no one can, Huan Lei said as his eyes narrowed. But what do you know about it? Kai smirked. More than you, apparently. Without warning, Chen Yan lunged forward, her hands glowing with a pale blue energy. Kai barely had time to dodge as she unleashed a flurry of strikes, each one trailing wisps of frost. Ice-type skills. Kai rapidly countered with a flame palm strike, the heat from his hand melting the frost on Chen Yan's fingers. She hissed in pain and jumped back. Huan Lei seized the opportunity to charge in, his earth-infused fists swinging in wide arcs. Kai activated his swift wind step, narrowly avoiding a punch that left a small crater in the ground where he'd been standing. These guys aren't messing around, Kai thought. Time to get creative. He focused his chi, condensing it into a long staff. Chen Yang and Huan Lei's eyes widened in surprise. What kind of technique is that? Chen Yang demanded. Kai smirked. Wouldn't you like to know? He twirled the staff, using it to keep both opponents at bay. Huan Lei tried to close in, but Kai swung the staff low, sweeping the man's legs out from under him. Chen Yan took advantage of the distraction to unleash another ice attack. Kai raised his staff to block, but the thrust began to creep along its length. Crap, didn't think that through, Kai realized. He quickly dissipated the staff, letting the ice shatter harmlessly on the ground. Interesting trick, Chen Yan said, her eyes narrow. But parlor tricks won't save you. She began weaving complex patterns in the air, frost trailing from her fingertips. The temperature around them plummeted. She's charging up for a big attack, Kai thought. Can't let her finish. He condensed his chi, rapidly shaping it into a series of small daggers. He then fanned out his arm, sending 5 chi daggers flying towards Chen Yang in a wide spread. Her eyes widened in shock as the glowing projectiles flew towards her. At the last second, Huan Lei leaped in front of his companion, a wall of earth rising to block the attack. 3 of the chi daggers embedded themselves into the impromptu shield before dissipating, while 2 flew past on either side. Chen Yan ducked to avoid one of the stray daggers, while the other grazed her arm, leaving a thin, glowing cut. Nice try, Huan Lei growled. But we've got each other's backs. Teamwork, Kai thought as he gritted his teeth. Always complicates things. He glanced at the spirit tortoise, still withdrawn into its shell. Come on, little guy. A little help would be nice. Despite being grazed by the dagger, Chen Yan finished her technique, unleashing a wave of freezing energy that swept across the clearing. Kai activated his iron skin technique, feeling the cold wash over him without penetrating. Huang Lei, protected by his earth abilities, charged through the frost. His fist, now encased in stone, swung towards Kai's head. Kai ducked under the blow, feeling the wind of its passage ruffle his hair. He countered with a flame palm strike to Huang Lei's midsection, but the bigger man barely flinched. Tough guy, Kai thought. Need to find a weak spot. He backpedaled, trying to create some distance. Chen Yan pursued, ice daggers forming in her hands. You can't run forever, she taunted, flinging the daggers at Kai. He deflected most with hastily condensed chi shields, but one slipped through, leaving a shallow cut on his arm. Kai hissed in pain, feeling the cold seep into the wound. This is getting dicey, he thought. Time for some backup. Now, Liu Wei. Kai shouted. From the bushes came a volley of throwing knives. They weren't particularly accurate, but they forced Chen Yan and Huan Lei to break off their attack, diving for cover. Another one. Chen Yan snarled. How many of you are there? Kai used the momentary distraction to close the distance to Chen Yan. His flame palm strike caught her in the shoulder, and she cried out in pain as the heat seared through her clothes. Huang Lei roared in anger, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Cracks spread across the clearing, forcing Kai to hop from one stable patch to another. Terrain manipulation, Kai noted. Gotta be careful not to lose my footing. He condensed his chi into a grappling hook, using it to swing to a nearby tree branch. From his new vantage point, he rained down chi arrows on his opponents. Chen Yang wove a dome of ice to shield herself and Huang Lei. The arrows shattered against it, but cracks began to form in the icy barrier. We can't keep this up forever, Chen Yang panted. We need to end this quickly. Huang Lei nodded. I've got an idea. Cover me. As Chen Yang reinforced their ice shield, Huang Lei placed his hands on the ground. The earth began to rumble ominously. What's he up to? Kai wondered. Suddenly, stone spikes erupted from the ground, shooting towards Kai's perch. He leaped away just in time, the branch he'd been standing on impaled by the rocky projections. Kai landed in a roll, coming up with chi daggers in hand. He flung them at Chen Yan, forcing her to dodge and breaking her concentration on the ice shield. Huan Lei seized the opportunity to charge, his body now covered in a layer of living stone. Kai's eyes widened as the man barreled towards him like an unstoppable juggernaut. Oh crap, Kai thought. That's gonna hurt. He tried to dodge, but Huan Lei anticipated the move, changing direction with surprising agility for someone covered in rock. His stone-encased fist caught Kai in the ribs, sending him flying across the clearing. Kai hit the ground hard, the air driven from his lungs. His vision swam as he struggled to his feet. That wasn't fun, he thought dizzily. Note to self, don't let the big guy hit me again. Chen Yan pressed the advantage, sending a barrage of ice shards his way. Kai managed to condense a shield just in time, the frozen projectiles shattering against it. Liu Wei. Kai called out. A little help here. More throwing knives came flying from the bushes, forcing Chen Yang to break off her attack. One knife found its mark, embedding itself in her thigh. Chen Yang cried out in pain and anger. You little rat. I'll freeze you solid when I find you. Kai used the distraction to catch his breath, his mind racing. Okay, think. What would I do in a game situation like this? He glanced around the clearing, taking in the terrain. The spirit tortoise was still withdrawn in its shell, seemingly oblivious to the battle raging around it. Trees surrounded them on all sides, their branches reaching overhead. Making multiple chi platforms will take too much chi. I can instead use the environment to my advantage. He condensed his chi into a long rope, then flung it upwards, wrapping it around a sturdy branch. Using it like a vine, he swung towards Huang Lei, both feet extended. The big man, still encased in his stone armor, didn't have time to dodge. Kai's kick caught him square in the chest, the momentum of the swing adding to the impact. Huang Lei stumbled backwards, cracks appearing in his stone coating. He growled in frustration, trying to grab Kai, but the rope allowed him to swing out of reach. Chen Yang, limping slightly from the knife in her leg, set more ice attacks Kai's way. He used the rope to swing erratically, making himself a difficult target. This is more like it, Kai thought. Now I've got the mobility advantage. He released the rope at the apex of a swing, soaring over Chen Yang's head. As he passed, he unleashed a flame palm strike downwards, catching her a glancing blow on the shoulder. Chen Yang screamed in pain and rage, thrust spreading from her in all directions. The temperature in the clearing plummeted, ice crystals forming on the grass and trees. Kai landed and immediately had to dodge as icicles began raining down from the branches overhead. One caught him on the arm, leaving a nasty gash. Okay, maybe pissing her off wasn't the best idea, he thought, wincing at the pain. Huang Lei, his stone armor now repaired, charged at Kai once more. This time, Kai was ready. He condensed his chi into a tripwire, stretching it between two trees. The big man, focused on Kai, didn't see the trap until it was too late. He tripped, his momentum carrying him forward to crash face first into a tree trunk. The impact shattered Huang Lei's stone armor, leaving him dazed and vulnerable. Kai seized the opportunity, unleashing a flurry of flame palm strikes on the man's exposed back. Huang Lei roared in pain, trying to swat Kai away. But without his armor, the strikes were taking their toll. Chen Yan, seeing her companion in trouble, redoubled her efforts. She formed a massive spear of ice, hurling it at Kai with all her might. Kai saw it coming at the last second. He duffed to the side, feeling the rush of frigid air as the spear passed inches from his face. It embedded itself in a tree behind him, the wood creaking ominously from the sudden cold. Too close, Kai thought, his heart racing. Need to end this soon. He glanced at Li Wei's hiding spot, then back at his opponents. An idea began to form. Li Wei, he called out. Remember that move we practiced? There was a moment of confusion, then understanding dawned in Li Wei's eyes. He nodded, readying his remaining throwing knives. Kai charged towards Chen Yang, zigzagging to avoid her ice attacks. Just as he neared her, he shouted, now. Li Wei's knives came flying from the bushes. Chen Yang, focused on Kai, didn't see them coming. Three found their mark, embedding themselves in her back. Chen Yang screamed in pain and surprise, her concentration breaking. The ice forming around her hands shattered. Kai seized the moment, closing the distance using wind step. His flame palm strike caught her square in the chest, the heat searing through her clothes and skin. Skill leveled up. Wind step, level 3. Your agility increases by 30% when activated. Chen Yang's eyes widened in shock and pain. She stumbled backwards, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Then, without a sound, she collapsed to the ground. Cultivator Chen Yang eliminated. Plus 100 XP. As Kai stood over Chen Yang's body, his chest heaving from exertion, he felt a sudden warmth on his wrist. Glancing down, he saw that all three prongs on his trident-like mark had turned red. 3 lives, he sighed with relief. He then turned to face Huang Lei, who was staring at Chen Yang's fallen form in disbelief. Chen Yang. Huang Lei whispered, his voice cracking. Then his face contorted in rage. You killed her. Why is he so shocked? Kai wondered. Isn't this what rogue cultivators do every day? Kill and rob others. Well, looks like I'm going to have to kill him, even though killing him won't give me another life. In these stories, leaving an enemy alive always leads to revenge plots. I can't take that risk, not after the bandit incident. I did, Kai replied. And you're next. You think I'd just let you kill me? With a roar, Huan Lei slammed his fists into the ground. The earth trembled, and Kai watched in shock as Huan Lei's body began to change. Rocks and soil swirled around the man, covering his skin. His muscles bulged, growing to inhuman proportions. When the transformation was complete, Huan Lei stood nearly twice his original size, his body a patchwork of stone and flesh. A notification popped up in Kai's vision. Warning, enemy power surge detected. Huan Lei's stats have temporarily increased to Qi refining stage 8. Current stats. Strength, 63. Agility, 40. Endurance, 60. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, Kai thought, his eyes widening. A rage-induced power-up. That's so cliché and so dangerous. Huan Lei's eyes, now glowing with an unearthly light, fixed on Kai. I'll crush you, he roared, his voice distorted and gravelly. Kai barely had time to think before Huan Lei was upon him. A massive fist swung towards his head, and Kai knew that if it connected, it would likely take his head clean off. He desperately condensed his chi into a shield, holding it up just as the blow landed. The impact sent shockwaves through Kai's body, and he felt the shield crack under the immense pressure. This isn't good, Kai thought, gritting his teeth against the pain. I can't take many hits like that. He tried to counterattack with a flame palm strike at the rogue cultivator's chest, but against Huan Lei's stone-enhanced body, it barely left a scorch mark. Huan Lei grinned savagely, grabbing Kai by the front of his shirt. Burn this, he growled, before throwing Kai across the clearing. Kai sailed through the air, unable to control his flight. He slammed into a tree trunk with bone-jarring force, stars exploding in his vision. As he struggled to his feet, he saw Huan Lei charging towards him again, each footstep leaving small craters in the ground. Shit, Kai thought, his mind racing. I'm going to lose another life now. He tried to dodge, but his battered body was too slow. Huan Lei's fist, now the size of a boulder, came flying towards him. In that moment, something unexpected happened. The spirit tortoise, which had remained inactive throughout the battle, suddenly appeared in front of Kai. Kai, seizing the opportunity, grabbed the tortoise shell. He used it as a shield, feeling the impact reverberate through his arms as Huan Lei's fist connected. But the shell held, not even a crack appearing on its surface. Huan Lei's eyes widened in shock. What? How dash? His moment of surprise was all Kai needed. With his free hand, he condensed his chi into a long, sharp spike. Before Huan Lei could react, Kai thrust the spike forward with all his strength. The chi-formed weapon found its mark, piercing Huan Lei's throat. The big man's eyes bulged, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly. His stone armor began to crumble, revealing the man beneath. Huan Lei stumbled backward, clutching at his throat. Then, with a final, gurgling gasp, he collapsed to the ground. Kai stood there, panting heavily, the spirit tortoise's shell still held in one hand. He stared at Huan Lei's fallen form, a mix of guilt and relief swirling within him. Cultivator Huan Lei eliminated. Plus 200 XP. I did it. I actually did it. Quest completed, rescue the spirit shell tortoise. Reward, 600 XP, increased reputation with spirit beasts, new skill unlocked, spirit beast communication, level 1. Level up. You are now level 7. Kai stood in the clearing, his chest heaving as he caught his breath. The bodies of the 3 cultivators lay scattered around him. He glanced at the spirit tortoise, still hidden safely in its shell. Time to check my stats, Kai thought. He focused, calling up his status window. Name, Kai Thorn. XP, 0-2000. Level, 7. Chi, 200-200. Strength, 50. Agility, 53. Endurance, 51. Intelligence, 28. Wisdom, 27. Skills. Chi condensation, level 3. Basic cultivation technique, level 3. Unarmed combat, level 2. Deception, level 3. Iron Skin, level 2. Swift Wind Step, level 3. Flame Palm Strike, level 3. Mental Fortitude, passive. Spirit Beast Communication, level 1. Chi Concealment, level 1. Chi Detection, level 1. It took saving a rare tortoise and killing 3 cultivators at the same level just to break through, Kai sighed, running a hand through his hair. He turned his attention to the spirit tortoise, which had yet to emerge from its shell. Kai cleared his throat and spoke, "Hey there. I'm Kai. Thanks for the help earlier." To his surprise, the tortoise's head popped out of the shell, its eyes wide with wonder. You can speak the beast tongue?" it asked, its voice high-pitched and slightly squeaky. "Only the basics," Kai smiled, which was true since he had just acquired the skill. "I'm still learning." The tortoise's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Oh, how wonderful. I am Gigi, wise spirit of the shell and guardian of ancient knowledge." "Nice to meet you, Gigi," Kai said, bowing slightly. "Thank you again for your help. That could have ended badly if you didn't interfere when you did." At that moment, Li Wei dropped down from the trees, landing gracefully beside Kai. He looked between his master and the tortoise, confusion evident on his face. To him, Kai appeared to be talking normally, but the beast was just making strange noises. Kai noticed Li Wei's bewilderment and realized his servant was being left out of the conversation. He turned back to the tortoise. "Say, Gigi, would you mind speaking in the human tongue? My friend here doesn't understand beast language." Gigi's eyes narrowed slightly, as if offended by the implication that he might not be able to speak human language. But as the tortoise glanced at Li Wei's confused expression, its features softened. "Of course," Gigi said, now in perfect human speech. "My apologies for the oversight, young cultivator. I am Gigi, a spirit tortoise of great wisdom and power." Claiming to have great wisdom and power somehow makes me doubt it, Kai thought with a wry smile. Li Wei's eyes widened in amazement. It can actually talk," he exclaimed, then quickly bowed. "Forgive me, noble spirit. I am Li Wei, Master Kai's servant." "Great," Kai said. "Now that we've introduced ourselves, I have to ask, Gigi. Why didn't you do anything earlier? Those cultivators were trying to capture you." Gigi's head retreated slightly into his shell, his eyes narrowing. "Young one, you must understand that we spirit beasts operate on a different level than mere mortals. Those low-level cultivators could never have harmed me. They would have grown bored and left eventually." Interesting, Kai thought. He's either incredibly powerful or incredibly naive. Maybe both. "I see. Well, I'm glad we were able to resolve the situation quickly. A spirit beast companion could be incredibly useful. It's like having a legendary pet in an MMO. But how do I convince it to join us?" "So, Gigi," Kai said casually, "where are you headed? Do you need any protection on your journey?" The tortoise's head emerged fully from its shell, and it puffed out its chest. "Protection? Ha! My shell is all the protection I need, young cultivator." Then, almost as an afterthought, it added, "though I'm traveling in that direction." Gigi pointed with its head towards the east. Kai's eyes lit up. "That's the same direction as the treasure spot. Perfect. What a coincidence. We are headed that way too. Maybe we could travel together." Gigi seemed to consider this for a moment. "Well, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to have some company." "Very well, young Kai. You may accompany me on my journey." Kai grinned. Quest companion acquired, he thought triumphantly. He turned to Li Wei, who was looking at him with wide eyes. "A the spirit beast. Traveling with us?" He looked at the small tortoise with distrust. "Is that safe, master?" Kai clapped a hand on Li Wei's shoulder. "Don't worry. Gigi here is on our side. This is a great opportunity for us to learn more about spirit beasts." Li Wei nodded weakly, still looking unsure about the prospect of having a spirit beast join their party. "All right," Kai said, clapping his hands together. "Let's get moving. We've got a lot of ground to cover." They set off, with Gigi leading the way. However, Kai quickly realized that their pace had slowed to an agonizing crawl. The spirit tortoise moved at a speed that made snails look like sprinters. I thought with an agility of 10, it would at least move at a normal pace, Kai thought, frustration building. At this rate, we'll reach the treasure spot sometime next century. After about 15 minutes of painfully slow progress, Kai cleared his throat. Gigi. I don't mean to be rude, but is there any way we could move a bit faster? Gigi's head swiveled around, his eyes narrowing. Faster? Young one, haste is the enemy of wisdom. We spirit tortoises move at the perfect speed for contemplation and observation of the world around us. Kai bit back a sigh. Great. We've got a philosopher tortoise. I understand, Gigi. It's just that we are on a bit of a time constraint. Would you perhaps like a lift? To give you a better vantage point for observation. The tortoise looked offended for a moment, then seemed to consider the offer. Well, I suppose a higher viewpoint could provide new insights. Very well, I shall accept your offer. Kai nodded, relieved the tortoise had taken up his suggestion. He turned to Li Wei. Li Wei, would you mind carrying Gigi on your head? It'll give him the best view. Li Wei's eyes widened and he looked at Kai as if to say, why me? But being the loyal servant he was, he nodded. Of course, master. With some awkward maneuvering, they managed to get Gigi situated on top of Li Wei's head. The young man wobbled slightly under the unexpected weight but quickly found his balance. As they resumed their journey at a much more reasonable pace, Kai found himself pondering the spirit tortoise. The system identified it as a baby, but Gigi acts like his ancient. Something doesn't add up. Gigi, Kai said, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? The tortoise puffed up with pride. I have seen 100 summers, young Kai. A mere blink in the lifespan of a spirit tortoise, but filled with wisdom beyond measure, I can assure you of that. Kai's eyebrows shot up. 100 years old and still considered a baby. These spirit beasts are something else. That's impressive, Gigi. What's the typical lifespan for a spirit tortoise? Young one, Gigi said, his voice taking on a lecturing tone. We spirit tortoises live for thousands of years naturally. Some say the oldest among us have seen the rise and fall of entire civilizations. Wow, Kai said, genuinely impressed. So you're still quite young by spirit tortoise standards. Gigi's head retreated slightly into his shell. Well, yes. But do not make the mistake of thinking that makes me any less knowledgeable. Age is but a number, and wisdom knows no bounds. Age is but a number. That kind of thinking would get you locked up back home, Kai suppressed a smirk. As they walked, Gigi began to tell them tales of his adventures and profound insights into the nature of the world. Li Wei listened with rapt attention, clearly in awe of the spirit beast. Kai, however, found himself growing increasingly skeptical. And so, Gigi was saying, I told the great phoenix of the southern mountains, my friend, true immortality lies not in rebirth, but in the eternal flame of wisdom. And do you know what happened next? What happened? Li Wei asked eagerly. The phoenix bowed its head in recognition of my superior insight and granted me a single feather as a token of respect. Gigi declared proudly. Kai raised an eyebrow. That sounds unlikely. Wow, Gigi. That's quite a tale. Can we see the feather? A phoenix feather must be an incredible sight. The tortoise's eyes widened slightly, and he seemed to fidget. Oh, well, you see, young Kai, the feather is it's a very delicate artifact. Exposure to the air of the mortal realm could damage its ethereal properties. I keep it safely tucked away in my spirit space. Yes, that's it. For safekeeping, you understand. Aha, Kai thought, his suspicions confirmed. He's definitely making this up as he goes along. Of course, how thoughtful of you to preserve such a rare treasure, Kai said, keeping his tone neutral. Perhaps you could tell us more about this phoenix. How did you come to meet such a legendary creature? Gigi hesitated for a moment. Well, you see, it was during my great pilgrimage to the sacred peaks of enlightenment. Yes, that's it. A treacherous journey that only the wisest and bravest of spirit beasts dare to undertake. Kai nodded, playing along while mentally rolling his eyes. This spirit beast might be 100 years old, but he's got the imagination of a children's story writer. I wonder if any of his wisdom is actually true or if it's all tall tales. Master, Li Wei whispered, his eyes shining with admiration, we are so fortunate to have such a wise and experienced spirit beast with us. We really are. Kai patted Li Wei's shoulder. Poor kid. He's buying every word of this. Kai decided to test the tortoise's knowledge a bit more directly to see if there was any truth in the tortoise's stories. Gigi, he said, I've been wondering about a cultivation technique I heard of. It's called the Celestial Phoenix Rebirth Method. Have you heard of it? Kai had completely made up this technique on the spot, but the tortoise nodded. Ah, yes, the Celestial Phoenix Rebirth Method. A most potent and dangerous technique. It allows the cultivator to be reborn from their own ashes, growing stronger with each rebirth. But it comes at a great cost, you see. One must be prepared to sacrifice much. He's just saying what anyone could guess from the name, Kai thought, suppressing a sigh. Time to press for more specific details. That sounds fascinating, Gigi, Kai said, keeping his voice neutral. Could you tell me more about the specific sacrifices required? I've heard conflicting information about the technique's details. The tortoise's eyes darted around for a moment before he replied, well, you see, young cultivator, the Celestial Phoenix Rebirth Method requires the practitioner to sacrifice their core. Yes, that's it. With each rebirth, one must destroy their cultivation core and rebuild it anew. It's a process of constant destruction and renewal, mirroring the cycle of the phoenix itself. Kai nodded slowly, processing the information. He's almost certainly making this up on the spot, he thought. The hesitation, the convenient explanations that match the technique's name, it all points to fabrication. And yet, a small part of Kai's mind couldn't help but wonder. For all I know, there could actually be a Celestial Phoenix Rebirth Method out there somewhere. It sounds like a legit technique. And maybe it does work exactly like Shizi described. That sounds incredible, Master. Liu Wei's eyes widened. Have you thought about learning such a technique? If it's a real technique, then why not? But remember, Li Wei, not everything you hear about cultivation is true. It's important to verify information before acting on it. The tortoise nodded vigorously. Yes, yes, very wise, young human. Trust, but verify, as the ancient sages say. Now it's quoting Ronald Reagan. Kai had to suppress a chuckle. As they continued their journey, the tortoise's stories became more and more outlandish. He even began to claim he had the position of royal advisor to a kingdom of talking trees. Gigi, Kai said during a pause in the tortoise's monologue, all these adventures sound amazing. But I'm curious, what was your most recent experience before we met you? The tortoise fell silent for a moment, caught off guard by the question. My most recent experience? Yes, Kai pressed gently. What were you doing just before those cultivators tried to capture you? Gigi's head retreated further into his shell. Well, that is to say, I was engaged in deep meditation. Yes, contemplating the mysteries of the universe. Kai nodded, keeping his expression neutral. I see. And before that? I was... Gigi stammered, then suddenly blurted out, I was learning to swim, okay. My mother said I needed to practice. A heavy silence fell over the group. Liu Wei looked confused, glancing between Kai and the now thoroughly embarrassed tortoise on his head. Kai sighed, a mix of amusement and sympathy washing over him. Just as I thought. He's not some ancient, all-knowing spirit. He's just a kid trying to act grown-up. As Kai was wondering whether to expose the poor tortoise or to continue humoring it, he suddenly noticed something on his map function. A massive red spot appeared, moving towards them at an incredible speed, almost as if it had teleported. What the hell? Kai thought, his heart racing. That can't be good. Li Wei, get ready dash, Kai started to warn, but before he could finish, a rumbling sound erupted from beneath their feet. In less than a second, thick tree roots burst from the ground, wrapping themselves tightly around Kai and Li Wei's legs. They were bound in place, unable to move. What the dash, Kai grunted, struggling against the roots. He looked up to see Gigi, who had been thrown into the air from Li Wei's head, retreating into his shell in panic. Great, Kai thought, his mind racing to find a solution. Just when I thought things were going smoothly. Whatever that red spot on the map was, it's definitely here now. He scanned the area frantically, trying to spot their attacker. The forest around them seemed to have come alive, trees creaking and leaves rustling as though they were greeting their emperor. This is no ordinary ambush, Kai realized. We are dealing with something way beyond our current level. Chapter 20, Tree. Kai glanced at Li Wei, who was frantically trying to free himself from the roots. The young man's face was pale with fear. Li Wei, stay calm, Kai said, keeping his voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. We need to think this through. Suddenly, a translucent blue screen appeared before Kai's eyes, displaying information about their attacker. Danger. Powerful entity detected. Name, Ancient Spirit Tree. Realm, Peak Nascent Soul. Age, 10,000 years. Special abilities. Warning, extreme caution advised. Entity for exceeds current power level. Kai's face went pale as he read the information. We are dead. We are so dead. He glanced up at the massive tree looming before them. Its trunk was as wide as a house, with bark that seemed to shift and move like living skin. Countless branches reached towards the sky, their leaves a mix of gold and emerald. An aura of ancient power radiated from every fiber of its being. As Kai stared at their impending doom, he recalled the cryptic warning from that strange, rabbit-squirrel creature they'd encountered earlier. Beware the guardian of the hollow tree. Its bark is worse than its bite, but its bite is still pretty bad. Could this be what that creature was warning us about? Kai wondered. A nascent soul realm tree would certainly qualify as a formidable guardian, especially in the tutorial stages. If this is the guardian, we are in serious trouble. Its bark, that initial attack with the roots, was definitely bad enough. I don't even want to imagine what its bite might be. Okay, think. There has to be a way out of this. Kai's mind raced through potential escape routes. Chi condensation to create a blade and cut through the roots. No, a nascent soul realm entity's defenses would be impenetrable at my level. Swiftwind stepped to outrun it. Laughable, it probably controls this entire forest. I probably move at a snail's pace in its eyes. Maybe if I... With each idea, Kai's hope dwindled. The power gap was simply too vast. He sighed, shoulders slumping in defeat. I'm going to die. As soon as I respawn, I need to use the brief window of surprise to create cheap platforms and escape into the sky. Please, please tell me this thing can't fly. Trees can't fly, right? He paused, remembering where he was. It's a Xianxia world. Of course it can probably fly. Why wouldn't a tree be able to fly here? I'm so screwed. Just as Kai was resigning himself to his fate, a familiar squeaky voice piped up. Mother. Mother, please don't hurt them. Kai's eyes widened as Gigi's head popped out of his shell. The little tortoise was looking up at the massive tree with what could only be described as a pleading expression. Mother. Did that little fibber just call that monstrosity mother? Kai's mind reeled. Wait a second. Didn't Gigi claim to be an envoy to a kingdom of trees? I thought he was making that up, but... The roots holding Kai and Li Wei suddenly stopped tightening. A deep, melodious voice resonated through the clearing, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Gigi, my child. Are these humans bothering you? Gigi shook his head. No, mother. I was just sharing some of my vast wisdom with them. They are my disciples. Yes, that's it. I've taken them under my tutelage. The tree's branches swayed gently, and Kai could have sworn he heard a sigh rustle through its leaves. Oh, Gigi. Are you at it again? Gigi's head retreated slightly into his shell, but he quickly popped back out. Mother, you don't understand. This human, Kai, he helped when some bad humans wanted to capture me. The roots around Kai and Li Wei's legs began to loosen. Is this true, young human? The tree asked, its voice softer now. Kai nodded vigorously. Yes, ancient one. My companion and I found 3 rogue cultivators attempting to harm Gigi. We intervened. Please let that be enough, Kai thought. The roots retracted completely, freeing Kai and Li Wei. The tree's voice took on an apologetic tone. I see. I must thank you for protecting my son. Forgive my hasty actions. There's no need for thanks, Ancient One, Kai bowed deeply, his heart pounding in his chest. We were simply doing what was right. And by right, I mean trying to gain an advantage, Kai thought. Let's just keep that part to ourselves, shall we? But if we hadn't made the choice to help Gigi, would be dead right now. No amount of respawns would be enough to survive this. Yi Wei, who had been uncharacteristically quiet until now, suddenly blurted out, "But how can a tree be a tortoise's mother?" "Oh, for the love of... Yi Wei, you idiot." Kai nearly facepalmed. Didn't anyone teach you not to question the family dynamics of nascent soul beings? He shot a panicked glance at the enormous tree, half expecting to be smited on the spot. To his relief, a sound like gentle laughter rustled through the leaves. "An understandable question, young one. I am not Gigi's birth mother, but I have raised him since he was nothing more than an egg. I found him abandoned in the forest and took him under my protection." The tree's voice became a whisper. "His true parents are well, that is a tale for another time." Kai felt the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. "Okay, crisis averted. Note to self, give Li Wei some lessons on when to keep his mouth shut." Gigi, apparently eager to bring the attention back to himself, began recounting the battle with the rogue cultivators. Kai listened with growing amazement as the little tortoise spun a tale that barely had any similarity to reality. "And then, with my impenetrable shell, I deflected the Ice Witch's attacks. Young Kai here provided adequate support, distracting the Earth Brute while I delivered the finishing blow with my secret technique." Kai managed to keep a neutral expression, but internally he was torn between amusement and exasperation. Adequate support. I practically did all the work. But you know what? If it keeps us alive, Gigi can take all the credit he wants. The tree's branches swayed gently, and Kai got the distinct impression it was used to Gigi's embellishments. Nevertheless, it praised the little tortoise. "How brave you were, my child. Truly, you are growing into a formidable spirit beast." Gigi preened under the praise, puffing out his little chest as much as his shell would allow. The tree's attention then turned back to Kai. "Tell me, young cultivator, what brings you so far from human settlements? Humans do not usually come out all this way, they know better. How much should I reveal?" Kai hesitated for a moment, weighing his words carefully. "If I lie and it catches me, we are done for." But the truth might not be much safer. Taking a deep breath, he decided on honesty. "We were searching for a treasure, Ancient One. An old map showed something of value in this area." The tree's aura grew serious, and Kai felt a subtle pressure bearing down on him. "A treasure, you say? Tell me, does anyone else know of this map? Have you spoken to others about your destination?" Kai shook his head quickly. "No, I retrieved the map from a bandit's corpse. No one else knows we are here. Please don't kill us for knowing your location. We'll leave right now and never come back. We'll swear a blood oath if that's what it takes." To Kai's relief, the tree's aura relaxed once more. "I see. That is unfortunate." Before Kai could figure out what the old tree meant by that statement, the ground before them began to shift. Small mounds of earth rose up, and from each one emerged a fruit. Kai counted 5 in total, each a different vibrant color. The tree spoke again. "Humans, what you see before you are the true treasures of this forest. Once every century, I produce fruits imbued with elemental essence. Each has the power to increase one's affinity for an element." Kai's eyes widened as system notifications began to pop up in his vision. Item discovered, Fruit of Blazing Flame. Effect, permanently increases fire affinity by 20%. Rarity, Legendary. Item discovered, Fruit of Flowing Water. Effect, permanently increases water affinity by 20%. Rarity, Legendary. Item discovered, Fruit of Unyielding Earth. Effect, permanently increases earth affinity by 20%. Rarity, Legendary. Item discovered, Fruit of Howling Wind. Effect, permanently increases wind affinity by 20%. Rarity, Legendary. Item discovered, Fruit of Blessed Lightning. Effect, permanently increases lightning affinity by 20%. Rarity, Legendary. Holy crap. Those fruits are insane. A permanent 20% increase to elemental affinity. That's the kind of power-up you'd normally have to complete an entire story arc to get. Kai struggled to keep his composure as his mind raced with the possibilities. But why is the tree showing these to us? Is this a test? Or